Sometimes people say case method works for some audiences but not for other audiences. So let's spend a minute and talk about case method for MBAs. Is that any different for teaching cases with practicing managers and executive MBAs who have full-time jobs, or when you're consulting or perhaps dealing in a corporate setting when you're dealing with executives with significant responsibilities at the other end of the scale, maybe undergraduates who don't have much work experience at all. In my experience, I think case method works for all of these groups. You might adjust the cases that you choose so that the context of the cases are ones that the students can identify with. If you have too many chief executive decision-making cases for undergraduates, they may not be able to understand, relate to, identify with, get what it's like at that level, and vice versa. So depending on the audience you're going to have in your course, whether it's consulting or a 4-degree program, I encourage you to think about the audience, the issues that they're dealing with. As I've said in a previous segment, I always start with what are the issues you deal with on a daily basis to sort of ground the discussion. And then, if you've chosen your cases carefully, they will come out, as they frequently do, at the end of each class and say, wow, I'm exactly in that situation. That guy was me, or I know that guy. His name is different, but I've been there. I know what that's like. This was a great discussion. So if you get that coming after a class on a fairly regular basis, you can have some confidence that you've chosen the right materials. Alternatively, if people come out and say, you know, I don't really deal with stuff like that, I just can't relate to that discussion, then you may say, wait a minute, I may have picked a case that I like, but it may not have been the right case for this group of people. So there's a lot of customizing that goes into case method in selecting the right materials, taking into account that relationship between materials and students. When it comes to doctoral students, we actually require a case on pedagogy, or andragogy, if you will, teaching of adults. Here at the Darden School, I know they did at Harvard. I took that course. Many doctoral programs do not. So in our doctoral program, in this required course, which I've taught for 33 years, we use a lot of cases. But the cases are written around what happens in the classroom. How do you design a syllabus? If you've got a recalcitrant student. Chris Christensen at the Harvard Business School wrote a book. He also wrote a bunch of cases along with his students. A wonderful compendium and collection of teaching situations that create dilemmas. I've conducted sessions for the AACSB and other organizations. In fact, I've been teaching seminars around the world in Sweden, the Philippines, Mexico, and various U.S. states on how to teach. And part of the issue is, with all of the different audiences that they have in these different parts of the world, with the different kinds of programs they have, you want to make sure that you've got materials that fit that audience. If you do that, my experience is you could use cases in virtually any educational setting, particularly if it's face-to-face. We've talked a little bit about the difficulties of using cases on distance learning, but in a face-to-face audience, I think case method works marvelously for all of these different audiences. You just have to make sure that you get the right materials for the right group.